So I'm going to show you a tool that has been very fascinating to me and to many other traders too. It's a tool that helps you see certain patterns, certain trends in the past. Um, I think some of you heard about the Fibonacci sequence or the Fibonacci circle that if you take a shell and you open it, you follow the lines of the shell as it goes, the circle gets bigger, it goes bigger and bigger, but it starts in a very small. If you put a Fibonacci on Africa, the densest spot in the middle of that shell is actually in West Africa somewhere. I think um, it's in Nigeria. And then as you go wider and wider, the population becomes less and less. So there's a pattern over the whole earth in all things that is happening always that says something about what's going on. And this tool is very nice tool to use, especially if you're doing trying to do a projection into the near future on what could do. So, for instance, you've learned the tool, the Bollinger Bands. That was one of the first tools I've taught you, one of the nicest tools, telling you that this is the next point that could go. And so, for instance, I'm just going to make this. So you're going to use your mouse to move either the graph. I'm left clicking on the graph and I'm pulling it back and forth. And then on the numbers, I'm left click, hold it in and hold it in. And you can play around with that graph like that until you get the size you want. So the Bollinger Bands tell you at this given point in time that that's possibly the next high and this is possibly the next low. And then you can work your trades where you're going to buy and where you're going to sell. But that obviously changes if I change it to a 4 hour graph. A 4 hour graph should show higher and lower. So there we go. In fact, now what it's showing us is that 4 hour graph isn't going to go higher. It's going to go lower because that's too high. So whenever your candlesticks are out your Bollinger Bands, that's dangerous area, then you know that it's going to drop. And then also we also see the high is not that high, but the low is even lower than this particular point on the 4 hour graph. And then if we had to put the 1 day graph, it would show different. But tonight's lesson isn't about the Bollinger Bands. It's just an introduction to get us to understand the new tool we're going to use is the Fibonacci. All of our tools are on the left-hand side of the screen. When you put your mouse there, you'll see there's an arrow. When you click on the arrow, you'll see the toolbox. So that just shows you what's the first tool that you can use, and then all those down there. Then there's a second toolbox, and there's all of these tools, and so on. But we're using the second toolbox called the Fib retracement or Fibonacci retracement. At some other stage, if you folks want to get deeper into this, we'd be using GAN fan and GAN box and all of that. But this is the simplest tool to use for all beginners. And even experienced traders use the Fibonacci. You can see I've put a little star in those boxes right there so that I take tools out of these toolboxes and I put them on the screen. So if I undo GAN fan, it takes it off there. But if I add it back again, click on that little star, it added it back there again. But I'm going to use for training purposes, I'm using these are my main tools. So the Fibonacci retracement, I'm going to just refresh the screen so that we can get rid of all of this. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to close that little volume box. Those little things at the bottom there, I don't want that because it interferes with the candlesticks. So I want to take them away. then you know which is candlesticks and which aren't. And then let's put it on a 1-day graph. Let's take Bitcoin to a 1-day graph. Now, if I go and take a Fibonacci, I'm going to click on that Fibonacci retracement, click once. Then I'm going to take it to the bottom before, when this thing hit the bottom of the bottom. I want to click once at the bottom, leave the mouse. Why is it not doing it? Okay, let's try again. It does this sometimes. Oh, there, it just pasted. Click once, and you see it automatically puts a Fibonacci on your screen. And as I move my mouse, it's moving it higher and higher and higher and higher. All right, so I take it from the bottom to the very top. So ideally, I take it to that top because there's no higher top since it hit that top. That's the highest South African rand price the Bitcoin has hit ever. And I've taken it from the bottom in March to the top in July. This is a perfect movement for any cryptocurrency, for any market. If it moves out of this pattern, then there's lots of manipulation going on. So I'm going to make this full screen now so that for those of you who are watching on this on your phone, I have lots of sympathy because you're gonna have a hard time reading this. Okay, let's quickly minimize all of these. Cool. So what I've done is I've clicked on this Fibonacci, and I can do it from there to there also. I can go to click at the bottom, take it all the way to the top, and say, all right, there are the areas where this price has moved. So what is this? What's so important? You'll see this one shows 21.9, that's one 23.6, 38.2, 61.8. So those are, if we're going up or down, we are looking at 78.6. And then, of course, that at the middle is 50%. So when I'm drawing it up, this line will always stay at 50%. That one will always 38%, 23%. So basically what it's doing is it's showing you values from there, which is 0, down to there, which is 23% down to there, which is 38%, down to 50%, down to 61%, down to 78%, down to 100% where it is now. What is important about this is to see, now I'm just going to zoom this even in much more because now we're using a magnifying glass. We just want to see where all these lines are. These are like your resistance lines. Resistance lines. You can see I put it at the top there, and the resistance line, you can see when the price went there, it automatically stopped and went back down to this line. Then it went almost back to that line, and then it went back down to the 50% mark. And so it stayed so long between the 50% line and the 23% line. And then finally it broke through the 23% line to go to the 0% line. Now, this is just amazing, phenomenal, because we can now use this. If I now stretch this, I'm going to left click and hold and just draw this further down because I want to see where this price could possibly go in the future. These are the places where I would be watching for drops or lifts. Drops or lifts. bullishness or bearishness. Together with my other tools, I can use an RSI now, I can use Bollinger Bands, I can use all my other tools, parabolic SAR. And in some of the future, there's one class we're going to have, which I'm going to talk about. One of the most important tools that never get discussed. In fact, we might get it on one of these graphs called the moon phases. And then one thing that I only found one trader in the 1920s and 1930s, which actually discussed and showed uh, seasonal changes. So on your 21st, between 21st and 22nd of August, should be your lowest time of the year. So if Bitcoin is coming down, which it is, and it hits a low, look how in time it is to hit that price, or that price, or that price. It could go as low as 1.6 million per Bitcoin. You say, oh, look, I bought Bitcoin. Oh, my dad, my mom, my uncle, my fellow men told me I must buy Bitcoin. Yes. Well, then I suggest if you're going to hold a Bitcoin and say, I've got 0.x Bitcoin, but I'm not going to sit in front of the screen until the end of September, because if it's dropping, I'm going to see the Rand value of that Bitcoin drop. But I still have the same amount of Bitcoin. So if you got a shop with 1,000 soaps in it, and you're selling 1,000 soaps at 10 Rand a soap, but then the shop across the road starts selling the same soaps at 5 Rand a soap. When the shop across the road is selling at 5 Rand and you're not selling soaps, how many soaps do you have? You still got exactly the same amount, whether it's 100 or whether it's 1,000 soaps. You still have the amount. The value has dropped, but not the amount of soaps have dropped. And that's why traders make the biggest mistake in their trades when they see prices drop. And that's why using the Fibonacci as a tool is a very nice tool to use for trading, because now instead of just buying at the current price, expecting it to go up, what you do is you do what I'm going to teach you: multiple trades. You're going to place multiple trades, buy orders, buy orders, buy orders. And then when it hits those prices, then you can make money going back up again when the price goes back up, if it goes up. So we're expecting, if I had to do some predictions, we could expect one more big bull run this year. And then we got to expect to buy, trade other coins, because we are at the end of our 4-year cycle. So if you're into Bitcoin, great. If you got a few 100,000 or a few million in the market, it would be good to buy some now, but buy some when it hits the rock bottom price. I'm giving you rock bottom price. Everyone wants to buy the bargain. So if you were the one that heard that was going to buy the soap for the first time, and you saw a discount, a sale, and you bought all of those soaps at that shop for 5 Rand, and then you went back to your own shop and sold the same soaps for 10 Rand, then you didn't lose anything. So placing multiple orders and keeping money in the bank helps you trade much better. Let's get back to Fibonacci. So if I take this Fibonacci and I say, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to project this right back into the past. Let's see how accurate these movements are. Because if I can see how accurate these movements are, I can then prove to myself and everyone else how good this is. I'm still trying to keep this on the bottom line there. As you can see, it's the bottom line here is that bottom line there. Let's draw it back a little bit more. Can you see how accurate this is? And I can take this further back into the past. I'm not that accurate on that line anymore, so but I can see that this is a Fibonacci that could have been drawn back to 2021 or even earlier, and this is how the markets are running now. I can put more Fibonacci's on the screen now for daily trades, for weekly trades, and I'll have smaller support and resistance lines. So what are these lines here? These lines are support and resistance lines. So what is this line at the moment? It's the ceiling for this price. In other words, when this price hits there, it's a ceiling, so a ceiling is resistance. When it hits the floor, that's support. So in other words, when it hits the ceiling, the resistance line, it's then going to start bouncing underneath, struggling to get through. Like there. It hit the ceiling, the resistance line, and then it came down. And it fell through that support line and it hit this support line and then went through the ceiling. Then came back to the support line and and then finally it made its way through that resistance. But now this line at the bottom is a support line, support line, support, support, because when you drop onto a support platform, a plank, or a line or a platform. And this is where the guys are placing their buy orders, placing their buy orders, placing their buy orders. And this is the place where the guys are placing their sell orders, placing their sell orders. I'm not talking about all the money that's made in between. There's lots of money made in between these lines. Let's use another coin. One of my favorites. Let's use Tron. I'm gonna post it. TRX. Very cheap, buy lots. Take the volume off. Now let me draw Fibonacci back to here. I will go put it at the bottom and put it at the top. And then I can project when it's going to hit, where it's going to hit that top again. And guess what? It hit that top. Here's something that you'll also notice, that this line going there, while the price is going up, if it's meant to go up, it's going to go back onto that line. There it carries on. But what I'm going to do now, let me show you before I do it. I'm going to take the 50% line and I'm going to move it using this little top thing at the top here. I'm going to move it to the top of there so that these two, 1, 2, 3 lines can move higher, so I can project further into the future. So let me do that. I'm going to show you again. I'm going to move this line here with the help of this. You see where I put my mouse? There's a little round dot thing. I'm going to move that up so that this is on the top of that. Let me show you. So the 50% now, I'm moving up to the top there. Now it's easier to project the next resistance, next resistance, next resistance in the future. And I can project that further, further, further. And we can see all those support and resistance lines that happened thereafter. Let me get this. There's a resistance that came back down to the support, back down to the support, back down to the support, up to the resistance, broke, tried to get, finally it got to the next resistance line, then it broke through there, and it broke through there. And if I bring this whole line thing up again, I'll probably be somewhere at the top there. But if I know the price is going to drop, the price will drop to 5 Rand 48, 5 Rand 50. That's where I'm going to buy more. If I think it's going to drop further, I'm going to buy more there. Don't consider that the prices will always go up. That's Tron. Tron has done very well. We've seen here in 2018, it was going for 19 cents. It's been all the way to almost 8 Rand 50. So there's a very, very good medium term investment, if you can call it investment. And believe me, as I say, I'm not a financial advisor, and I don't give any financial advice. On my signals and tribe group, I just tell people what I would be doing. I try and reason with them and show them what the past has done, even though the past is not always projecting the future, but it helps the traders know what to trade on a day-to-day basis. Let's take something else, like um, Dodge or Doggy coin. Everyone has different pronunciations. Take the volume away, change it to a 1-day graph, make it full screen. I suggest everybody watch these videos over and over again. Elon Musk created these bull runs. He spoke, said something. It went from 11 cents to 1 Rand 88. So let's put a Fibonacci on this and see how we can think or project into the future. So there was the bottom. Price went up, went up, went up, went up, went up. Let's do this. We're going to compress this and say, I want to move the 75% line to the top there. So I'm going to pull this line here and put it on the top there. So I have to drag this one much higher. Great. Now let's see how good this is. See, it's actually still not even gone that high compared to, say, 61. Look at that. That 61 is on top there. When the price came down, it came all the way down to that 61. There was a resistance, there's support. All of this is resistance, shot out, came all the way down to support, went through, and we can have other Fibonacci's right there, right now. Look at this. Support, resistance, pushes through resistance, hits another resistance line that comes down to support, drops down, drops through, stays on that support, hits resistance, hits support, hits resistance, comes down, pushes through, and then comes down again. And we could project way into the future where these places will be for support and resistance. We're going to pull it even higher now. So I want that 786 on top of there. 786, there we go, support, resistance, resistance, resistance. Let me pull this into the future and see how this influenced the future of the trades. It's been perfectly going into this, in the support and resistance all the way right here. I'm talking about since 2021. We're talking about 4.5, 5 years of trade that it's been running between these lines. So there's no panic in the trader's mind that's preparing for the future, wanting to buy when the price drops in the dips. I want to buy, if I know the price is going to drop, I'm going to buy at 3 Rand 40 or 1 Rand 96. So the price can go anywhere to there or to there. Then it will bounce up again or go all the way down to, no, it won't go down. That is actually just below zero. So it would, if it goes all the way down there, the next way it's going to go up is there with some resistance, 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 resistance. So I can determine the future by seeing, okay, but is this profitable? Is this profitable to trade? Yes, it is. If it drops down to the support line, I'm buying 10% lower than what the current price is. But if it goes up to that line, I'm going to make 15%. If it goes from this line there to that line there, I'm making 28%. If it goes to that resistance line, 55%. To that resistance, 92. To that resistance, 154. So there's money to be made in the future on these coins. Don't always think that the price is just going to go up. You can see this is up and down, up and down. And what we possibly have here is what we call head and shoulders, where we've seen there's a shoulder, and there's a head, and it might come all the way down to 1 Rand 95, and then everyone gets everything on special. Everyone wants everything on special. But when they buy, then they want to buy high and sell even higher. And they end up buying high and selling lower because they panic. But if you have to put this Fibonacci on your screen and take a screenshot or just put it on your printer and print it out, this is your reminder that this is what the future might look like. And all of these lines, and I'm just going to highlight these, 4 Rand 32, 5 Rand 34, 6 Rand 59, and 8 Rand 68. Those are the places where it will go to. But that's just the near future. Then the next steps, I need to pull this Fibonacci up. I want to put one of these lines here on top of that line there. Right, so let's look at the next. Where's this coin going to go in the future? In the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see 11 Rand, 13 Rand 93, 17 Rand 22, and 22 Rand. From where the price is now currently, that would be a 5 times return on your investment. One of my traders, he He started trading about 5, 6 years ago. And what he did was instead of paying himself 10% of all his income that as soon as he earned the income, he took 10% and he bought crypto. And then he took another 10% and he bought crypto. And then every time he bought crypto. His his initial money that he put in was about 120,000. He's sitting on 500,000 right now because the prices did this. So he bought some of the coins here at low prices and just put 10%, 10%, 10%. It's called dollar cost averaging. And then, of course, in the meantime, those prices went sky high because he didn't trade it. He didn't play around with it. And he just said, I'm going to store it in crypto. And some good opportunities are going to come soon where people can buy crypto cheap in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to see that. All right, folks, we are almost done. If there's any questions or confusion at this point in time or anything you just want to know, you're welcome to then unmute yourself or type a message in the box. And while you are, I can tell you a little bit more about some of the courses and the Tribe and Signals group. The tribe membership is a more serious traders with lots of money in the market. They want to know it given short term. They want to phone me and ask me what to do. Then I can give them some guidance. That's 900 Rand a month. And then you get the super tribe, which people have got hundreds of thousands or millions in the market. That's a different fee. And then, of course, the normal signals is people that just want to say, tell me on a daily basis what I must trade. You'll get at least one good signal to trade every day, something that's going to go bullish in the next few hours, and that's 600 Rand a month. And that's you are on a WhatsApp group, and you'll get all of those signals. Furthermore, I've got a Binance course, I've got an altcoin trader course, and then I've got 7 levels of intermediate to advanced courses. So if there's anything you might be interested, let me know. The floor is open.
Evening, Raul. This is Yusuf. Thank you very much for this. Raul, I missed a couple of the recordings, but I just have one or two questions. When you, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. When you are trading, as you've indicated to us now, must you always take a tool and overlap it on that graph?
So I've just taken an
So the
example of a
Fibonacci,
one-day graph, but generally,
yeah.
if I refresh the screen, it goes to a 30-minute graph. You don't have to do it. It's just to give you some kind of possible future projection on what it could do. As if I open this right now on a 30-minute graph, I want to put a support line where I think it's, and then there's a resistance line coming down there. So I see there's a triangle forming, and then I can determine what's going to happen next. But I can add the tool of the Fibonacci straight on just this area from there where it started going up to where the highest point is there and see, okay, this is the reason why it's bouncing in between because it's in between these lines. And then I can determine by pushing this further down the line where this price could possibly go. So this is just telling you points of resistance and tell you points of support. Resistance, 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 support, support. And the resistance is where all the traders, they place their sell orders. If it's worth buying it at this point in time or to sell it at the next resistance, let me just change it to the, I want to see from the current price to the next resistance is 3%. That's traders are definitely going to grab that because it's going to make you a quicker 3% than waiting it for it to make you 16%. So day traders would be grabbing 2 and 3% in between. And this support line tells me I can buy it at 2% lower or 4.5% lower. So that's just a tool. You don't have to place it, but it's helpful.
All right. And then your straight red line, that, sorry if I'm asking a bit of silly questions here, but your straight line across the graph, that is, and at the highest point, that is where the Bitcoin is trading at the highest.
Are you talking about this line here?
No,
This one that's going
angle,
down.
correct, correct. Yeah,
Okay, so that's what has happened now as I'm looking at the trend. The price went high, it hit there and it bounced, came down and it hit there and I can see it's the way the pattern is happening there. Every time it hits a lower the resistance line, lower, 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 lower. So there's something happening now or going to happen. And when it comes into this corner here, that's why I draw that line down there, because you can have resistance lines on a horizontal level like the Fibonacci, but you can have resistance lines to see what is the next current trend going to happen. Because when it starts coming into the corner here, we call this a wedge or a triangle. So it's going to do one of two things, because where can it go? It's either going to drop through the bottom here, or it's going to shoot up and go out of here.